Hello, Excellency, Claudia Fritsche. Welcome to Frederick County.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, it's my pleasure. I know you just had a wonderful time with the young student at the Frederick High School, and I think this is an opportunity for many that were not lucky to attend there and hear from you to know about your country and what you are doing here. So, first of all, tell us a little bit about your country.
Well, Liechtenstein is not necessarily a superpower. It's a small country in the midst of the Alps, a country that these days enjoys a very high economic standard in terms of our manufacturing industry, our general services, our financial services. And with regard to European integration, although not being a member of the European Union, we are closely linked to the EU by virtue of the European Economic Area Treaty, meaning that we have access to the EU markets, we implement a lot of the legislation, so we are also very well integrated into Europe.
Okay, thank you. And also in terms of education, I know that you're a very small population, but American, we are curious. Always people are always looking for opportunity to go abroad and learn. And what can you tell us about the educational system?
Well, as a matter of fact, we do have, I don't know whether it is a handful or more, but certainly not a large number of American students at the largest of our higher educational institutions, our university. The University of Liechtenstein teaches architecture and economic sciences, in particular financial services. As for the rest, we have treaties with the universities in the surrounding countries to secure study places for our students. We cannot possibly maintain large educational institutions on our own.
Okay, thank you. I was listening to you a moment ago when you were interacting with students. I was very impressed how such a small country was able to last for 300 years without being invaded or captured or annexed or whatever. And the fact that we don't have an army. So, being a center for peace, this is very interesting for us. I would like to know how, for you to tell our listener also, how it's possible that such a small country will manage to stay true to itself.
Well, we managed to maintain our sovereignty, our independence through what some might consider fairly turbulent times in European history. But we are very fortunate. We have peace-loving, neutral neighbors. That helps a lot. We have been guided by very wise monarchs over the centuries. And so we have been probably more fortunate than other small entities. In addition to that, I do have to say that our economic success is more of a recent nature. It only started to take place after World War II. Before that, Liechtenstein was a fairly economically unimportant small entity.
Mm-hmm. You say something that's very, very important because since the Second World War, seeing a country going from, like I say in economic terms, a second-class country to one of the most performing, envy of the world. So, what is it that help your country, your people? Because some other countries are struggling, and so what is it that make it possible for your country to have the kind of economy we are all seeing today?
Well, I would say we have a few advantages. We are politically a very, very stable entity. I think that a lot of investors would look at that as a precondition. We have a very low unemployment rate. We have actually what some people would consider full employment. Our unemployment rate is below 3%.
Wow.
We have I think we are a very entrepreneurial society. People are fortunate enough to enjoy now a very high level of education, and they translate that into an entrepreneurship that Yes, it's maybe smaller in a tiny environment than within the big countries where you have a lot of competition, which we do, of course, as well. We are a totally export-oriented country, but our companies, they have to be self-sufficient. The government doesn't give export guarantees, it doesn't give subsidies of any kind. So, and we are too small. Our economy couldn't bail out any industry of the sizes that we have them. So it is being on your own, enjoying a free market economic environment, enjoying a politically stable environment, and of course, as of late, in terms of the last 20-25 years, it has been a great advantage of being fully integrated into the European Union markets by virtue of the EEA treaty that we have with the European Union.
So you have the best without necessarily being a member.
Well, we still, of course, have to implement a lot of EU legislation, which, as you can imagine, in terms of administration, it is quite a challenge for a small country like ours. We have, just to give you an example, since our membership in the European Economic Area, we have implemented about, well, between 6,000 and 7,000 EU acts, which is, our whole administration, our government administration is less than 1,000 people, including the teachers.
Wow.
So the department, the office that deals with the European Union EEA matters encompasses about 60 people, which for Liechtenstein is a big department. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Also, I was just, when you were interacting with the mayor, the Fritsche city mayor, Randy McClellan, you stated something that I found interesting. Yes, you are a monarchy, but your monarchy is like any other in the world, in the sense that the prince, you say, who is the head of state, if I understand it correctly, actually is involved in the political life. It's not just for honorific causes, but so I would like you to tell to some people what some the important, what some prerogative that make him a little bit different than other monarchs we have in.
Be happy to. Well, first of all, some people think that monarchies are really not modern state forms any longer. Yes. A lot of people don't believe. They prefer other state forms as being more conducive to good governance, etc. But we have been a monarchy for almost 300 years, and our constitution gives to the prince more far-reaching powers than you would find in many other monarchies, meaning that the prince not only co-signs every law that is passed by parliament, but he's also involved in the day-to-day business to the extent that he consults, respectively the government consults on a regular basis with him. And he takes a direct interest in a number of issues and weighs in accordingly. That guarantees for a very lively democracy, as you can imagine. And just to give you an example, we had, I don't think it's quite 10 years ago, we had a public referendum on some changes in our constitution, which were considered by some observers as taking the monarchy even a notch higher in terms of empowering the head of state. But it was passed by a majority of over 63%. So it's a clear wish of our population that this is our political system, our state form, with which we think our country will continue to prosper.
Okay, I think that's a very good example of having a monarchy that's successful in terms of economic and aspiration of the people. And I think, there's no perfect ways, just community, each people have the right to choose their own. I think that's working very well for you. And when you see the success that you're having as a country, I think it's something to let other monarchy think a little bit about get involved. But the last thing, you've been here in Frederick all day long. We thank you for coming because, again, this program was designed to have a foreign officer, if an ambassador to come here, bring a little bit of their country and what we've been doing in a wonderful way, and also take away something away from Frederick. So, very soon we'll be concluding your visit here. If I were to ask you some of the few things that you'll be taking away from Frederick, what would that be? You had a meeting with the students, you had a meeting with the mayor, you interacted with our staff at the center. So what are some of the few things you'll be taking away when you leave Frederick today?
Well, I am impressed with the quality of the educational institutions here. I'm impressed by the enthusiasm of the students and their interest in global affairs, much of which is nurtured by you. I know that.
Thank you.
And Frederick, besides being a historically very important place about which diplomats should know, I also detected during my short time here a really, really pronounced sense of community. And that is something that distinguishes many parts of the United States in a way that is maybe not as pronounced in other parts of the world. It's very impressive, and I will not fail to inform my colleagues and encourage them to visit Frederick the way I did.
You read my mind because I was going, I don't have this power, but I was going to empower to be our next ambassadors to Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for being such a great speaker, for telling us about your country, for sharing your life experience and how you were able to, your path, going from your country, serving in the United Nations for 12 years and coming to Washington, D.C., being the first in a country that just gave the right to vote for women in what year again?
1984.
1984. I think that's remarkable, and I think you are a source of inspiration. I want to thank you one more time.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your hospitality, for your interest, and for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.